Anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
Would you like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. You safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or YouTube, and follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and Jumping Pud Pod on Twitter. And if you want to support our podcast, please check out our coffee. Hi, I'm Sam, and with me are my fellow co-hosts, Tor and Ash.
Hey!
Hi. And today we're talking about the Season 3 episode, The Return, Part 1. While testing the McKay Carter intergalactic gate bridge, the Daedalus picks up an ancient warship, the Tria, whose passengers retake control of Atlantis and expel the expedition to Earth. Struggling to adjust to Earth life, the team gets back together when news reaches them that an Azuran ship is on its way to Atlantis.
Dun, dun, dun,
Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
Not the greatest dun dun dun, but that was a really exciting summary, I will say.
Thank you. It was a really exciting episode.
Yes, this episode is a blast. And isn't this, or is the next episode the halfway point of the show?
Oh, actually, I think this one. Right?
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
It's crazy.
yeah.
Halfway
How
through the whole
exciting.
show.
The whole show.
Yup. And what a halfway point. It's like
Yeah.
peak.
What an episode. What an episode. Oh man, it's tough to sort of, I think, for me anyways, it's tough to look at this episode as like one kind of thing. I feel like I have to kind of like split it into two
Yeah.
sort of
Mhm.
like separate things where it's like just like the team aspect and like all like that stuff. I'm like, oh my god, this is the best they've like ever written some of like the team scenes and just like the dynamics and just sort of like voicing their feelings, you know, like this is home or like these people are my friends, like all that stuff. This is like the best Atlantis has ever done.
Absolutely.
And then you get the ancient side of the things, and I'm like, thoughts. I have feelings, complicated.
Yeah. I can definitely see where you're coming from. I don't know if... I feel like there's a lot happening in this episode, and I was kind of surprised how much they managed to put into one episode. I was like, maybe it could have maybe made this a 3-parter, because I feel like there's just so much, because they find the ship, then they leave Atlantis. That's the whole thing. They have to say goodbye to everyone and everything that they've called home and family for the last 2.5 years. And then they are on Earth, and they have to adjust to Earth, and like being back and in a new, like, or back in their old life or whatever. And then they go back already. And it's so, I feel like the time that they are on Earth, that is so short. And like we already know that they're gonna go back, because like there's no way that there's a show called Stargate Atlantis and they're just gonna leave Atlantis. I feel like that there was so much. I don't know how you could have like drawn it out, but I feel like you could have. It didn't felt like the stakes were that high, maybe. But also like the way they did it and with the speed they went through all this made it even less, you know?
Yeah, 100% agree.
It would have been nice to have a little bit of time to sit in it, I think. Like, sit in those feelings of being kind of adrift and separated from Atlantis, because we do get really interesting glimpses of it for a lot of the characters, but I feel like I love those types of emotions coming from our characters, because I love the idea of Atlantis being their home, where they really found the place they belonged and they thrived and they connected with the people there. So I would have loved to see a little bit more of Rodney's loneliness maybe his interactions with his sycophants, as he called them. John a little more with his new gate team and how they're just not the same as, obviously, Rodney, Teyla, and Ronon. And his boss is not the same as Elizabeth. Elizabeth dealing with not being able to move on in such an interesting way. Not wanting to talk to anybody from Atlantis because it makes her miss it even more. But being so stuck, that was so interesting too. So yeah, I would have loved to sit in those feelings way more. And even seeing Teyla and Ronon struggling with being out of the fight, and Atlantis was their sort of way to contribute and fight back against the Wraith, and now they don't have that anymore, having to settle back into this calm, placid life of farming, and how they both would have struggled with that because their personalities and their desires do not mesh with that sort of life. So yeah, it would have been cool, for sure.
Yeah, we definitely get little glimpses, but I was just thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Maybe even like a montage would have been kind of nice.
Yeah, that would work.
Of sort of like the passage of time, you know, quote unquote. And because Carson mentions it's been 6 weeks since they got back on Earth, and so definitely a little montage, just like maybe like them settling in, or just like again like just time passing by, and just seeing like the discontent within everyone would have sort of maybe like sold it a little better. So we were talking about this like off the air, but the tension has definitely kind of evaporated, and I think we've mentioned this like a couple of times, but I think this is an episode where you definitely, it feels too comfortable. It feels like there's just, the stakes are so low, because like what Ash was saying is like you obviously know the team's gonna go back to Atlantis, and so you gotta be kind of, I think, smarter in how to like really sell the idea that, oh no, they've been kicked out of Atlantis and not going to go back for a while. And I just don't think that works. I think, yeah, the stakes and like the ancient stuff like doesn't work for me here. But again, it's saved by like all the really cute like family stuff, and again, even just getting like these little glimpses of like how unhappy they are. Like we never get to see like Elizabeth like voice her, you know, sadness and like how she's feeling like stuck. We never get to see her do that. We never get to see Rodney really say like out loud like, oh, I miss people, or like I'm lonely kind of thing, you know. We never get to see John, just on his face you can see just like how unhappy he is. So I'm also just grateful. I know it's like the bare minimum, but like and what we're complaining about is just we want more of that. That's like the kind of show like, you know, we want, and like we want these characters to be like suffering in a sense. So yeah, good, but we want more maybe.
Don't we always want more?
Yes, we're too greedy.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I agree. It's just nice to see the characters suffer emotionally, and especially Elizabeth, because I don't think we ever see her like this. But obviously other characters as well. But I was really happy that Elizabeth was a little bit more, like, obviously I was happy to see her, but that she got more to do in this episode, that she was not completely sidelined, and that it makes sense that she is especially strongly like thrown off by everything, because like she was the leader of Atlantis, and she got the cities through so much, and she endured so much with everyone, and that she is the one who is the least maybe able to settle in and to find something new, because it is, like she says it herself, I think this was like a so unique experience and so crazy and unimaginable, and to just go back to like being, I don't know, just in quotations mark to work, like, I don't know, for the UN or as an ambassador or something. are just not the same. Yeah, I guess that counts for all the characters, but like Atlantis really became her home, and she says that a few times, and yeah.
Am I crazy to say that this is like weirdly like one of like the most important Elizabeth episodes, even though it's not even like an Elizabeth episode? I just think you get to learn so much about her through these like little scenes of just like her, you know, being so unhappy and her being so reluctant to leave and like trying everything. That scene is so sad in the beginning where Jack's telling her like, oh, okay, the agents want to keep someone on Atlantis, you know, to like liaison, and she's like, oh, like I'll do it, like literally like, oh, pick me, like I'll do it like happily, and he's just like, no, you can't, like they know like you're not gonna want to leave ever again, or like you can't let go, and it's like, ouch.
That was so painful. Jack, why did you start that way? Why did you make it sound like that? Why? You know her. I believe you are friends, like that's my personal belief, but you know each other, and why do you get her hopes up? That was just no. But I do love that we got a little bit of like the Elizabeth Jack relationship. There's so much I want to talk about. Help. Like that we got that scene between them, and we see, or Jack says that like he would, I don't know if he says it, but like he realizes that it would make sense for her to stay, and he wants her to stay, but the ancients are kind of like just bulldozing everything that they want. So he feels bad for her, and it's just I really, really love that. But also the fact that this is the first time that we see Jack, like real Jack, and not like hallucination Jack. I didn't catch that until I like watched the DVD commentary. I was like, oh, this is the first time he appears like in the flesh again. I was like, holy shit, the last time that Elizabeth saw Jack probably was like in this weird, crazy, traumatizing dreamscape, and now he's here. How does she manage that so easily? Maybe they had contact in between, but if not, that is absolutely crazy, and I want to know how she feels about that.
Yeah, especially because I feel like this was so shocking. The ancients coming back to Atlantis and being like, okay, bye, we're taking over, is such a shocking thing. So maybe she's even in her head thinking, is this even real? Like, is this actually happening right now? Am I really losing like my best dream ever? Because it's such a shock. Like, it happens so fast. In the span of like 24 hours or 48 hours, they're out, right? So I imagine him being there is also affecting that feeling. But like you said, I really appreciated how much Jack acknowledged how much work Weir has done for Atlantis and for the expedition, and how they probably wouldn't be there without her leadership.
They literally wouldn't be there if it wasn't for her. Just to go back to the before I sleep stuff, but like Atlantis wouldn't exist.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just throwing that in there.
Oh, it's kind of hard to like talk about, I feel like, each character, because I feel like you kind of have to bring up the ancients in sort of different ways, right? And how they like what they mean to each character. And they're so intertwined with Elizabeth. I feel like I have to bring them up, obviously. But I think, yeah, it just makes me kind of sad, though. I think, again, just sort of like the obvious like narrative choices that like the writers just kind of skipped over, right? Like, this should be like earth-shattering, you know, news for Elizabeth to have these people that she's like idolized throughout the entire show, and she rescues them, and she's like, oh my god, you know, they're finally here, we get to learn so much about them, and they don't even speak to her. They don't even talk to her. They talk to Jack and Woolsey, and they tell Jack, they're like, yeah, she can't stay because we know like she's too obsessed with us. Like, are you kidding me? That should be devastating. And it is devastating, but she just sort of, I think they write her as just looking at it from like she's losing a place, she's losing a home, she's losing her city type of perspective. But I just wish it had also touched on the perspective of the ancients and how she feels about them, because this should be, I mean, she should fucking hate them after this. So she should just be like, you know what, like, you guys aren't the ancients that, like, I looked up to. Especially, again, not to bring in everything is just so tied in this episode, but, like, also, like, the Athosians, right? Like, this should be, like, mind-blowing to them in, like, the worst way, like, their worst nightmare. Because, like, their gods came back, and their god was like, the fuck out of my city. Like, go live somewhere else. Like, this should change the status quo of the entire show, and it doesn't, and it just drives me crazy. I think I've mentioned this before when, we brought up, like, the return. I think I mentioned, like, oh my god, I'm not looking forward to this episode. From, like, a narrative, and continuity point, it just drives me bonkers. But from, like, a family point and, like, a character point, it's like, oh, I love this. But I have to just bring it up. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring it up a lot, I think, because it's just the theme of the episode. And so, while I love that Elizabeth is so obviously, like, distraught and is so, like, just almost, like, broken, it seems, that she's, like, pulling away from, like, everyone that she loves, because she's just so sad that, like, she, won't get to go back to her city. I also just wish there was a little more fire, or a little more just, like, blame placed on the ancients themselves. It doesn't even seem like I don't think she even, like, really mentions them. She's just mainly talking about, like, the city itself and, like, how she misses the city. She doesn't even, like, blame them or anything, it seems like.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how the ancients, even though they are the reason that the episode is happening, are not as present, right? Like, because of everything that you just said. And also, I do wonder if the reason why Elizabeth, because she didn't even fight this, they were like, okay, you're out of here, you have 48 hours, and she was like, yeah, okay. And she didn't even flinch, and I hope, or maybe I want to believe that that's because she was already broken, or because she was like, this was like world shattering to her, that she was like, she didn't even know how to fight anymore. But I wish that she would have put up a fight here a little bit, or like at least tried to talk to Helia again. Was that her name?
I was gonna mention that. So for everyone who doesn't know, my dog's name is Helia, or one of my dogs' name is Helia. Which I completely forgot that this one was named Helia. I swear I didn't actually name her after this lady. I named her because of Helios, the sun god in Greek mythology, or the sun god of the and because my dog is like yellow or like golden, and I was like, oh my god, like that's like her vibe, her energy is like so bright, and so I like just changed Helios to Helia. And then when I was watching, the episode, I was like, wait a damn minute, I was like, did I really name my dog after an agent?
No.
So yeah, coincidence.
Oh,
happen. Oh no.
I just realized when I said the name out loud. That is so funny.
Yeah, I didn't even realize when we were watching the episode, and then you said it, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, but I wish there had been a little bit more of a discussion, maybe, or like at least the attempt of one from Elizabeth. And like as always, I don't really remember how like the story continues. Probably their relationship with the ancient doesn't really change. I'm just gonna say, okay, yeah, like because I do like I do watch the show, but I also have like massive headcanons. So I think for Elizabeth something definitely has changed, and that maybe the reason why she doesn't mention the ancients so much when she's back on Earth and like depressed is that she's probably, I guess she must be disappointed, or I don't know, whatever, in regards of the ancients, but also like she lost so much more, and maybe she realizes that Atlantis and the people, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but are in the end so much more important than the ancients and her like beliefs in them, maybe.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat where I don't really remember like part 2 as much, so I guess we'll like sort of talk about it obviously with, like when we get there. But I am not even kidding you. I would have settled for like a single sentence at the end of like the part 2 where Liz was just like, well, the agents suck, or just something like, yeah, well, because we don't have to look up to the agents anymore. And the team just being like, yeah, and then just like laughing and walking down a hallway. Like, I will literally settle for like the bare minimum of like, give me one line, guys. Please, I promise. That's all I ask.
I think would have been fun if they were like, okay, let's go rescue Atlantis, and then someone is like, don't you mean the Ancients? And Elizabeth is like, oh, right, they're there too. But no, mainly Atlantis.
Yeah.
The thing that I keep going back to is like how the reason she wasn't selected by the Ancients to stay is because she cared too much. And that is such a personal thing that is so terrible to have to hear. Whether it's true or not, like, gut-wrenching. But I will also say that I really appreciated Rodney and Elizabeth's relationship in this episode, because him right off the bat telling her, you should be in that room. You should be at the negotiation table. Because there's nobody he trusts with Atlantis and his future more than her. Yes, that was amazing. And yes, that's what she deserves. She should have been there. Absolutely.
No, Rodney and Elizabeth were so cute this episode. Again, just like Rodney's like belief in her as like a leader and like pushing her to be like, no, like, yeah, you should have been in there. And then also, that scene is so funny, of course, when Rodney and Elizabeth team up to seduce Bill and distract him and, you know, input whatever, like, Rodney's name in the little key card thing. That was so great. When he's, like, hyping up Elizabeth, like, okay, listen, you know, you're gonna have to do something, like, you're gonna have to, like, Bill, we're gonna go to Bill, and we're gonna figure this out. And she's like, what do I have to do? And then she's just like, nodding and just repeating words basically, like, oh yeah, I'm a mage. And then looking at Rodney like, hurry up! And Rodney's just like, I'm typing in the background. It's like peak sibling energy. I just loved it so much. I feel like this is very much like their vibe.
That scene is so funny. I always forget. I don't know I can forget about it, but I do sometimes, but I love it every time. And Elizabeth is so bad at this. She's so bad at, like, I don't know, lying or like just like coming up with random stuff on the spot, which, babe, you're a politician. Not a politician, but you're a diplomat. Shouldn't you like be good at improvising? That was so funny. And Rodney in the background just, like, gesturing to her, like, draw it out, draw his attention, talk to him, just talk. And she's so lost with everything. And Bill Lee doesn't even notice. He's just, like, excited to talk about World of Warcraft. Amazing. Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, their honeypot routine was so good with how bumbling it was. Their silent communication was everything. They should have done more stuff like this together once they got back to Atlantis. That would have been peak. But I also really loved when Rodney and John are having that phone conversation. Rodney mentions Elizabeth specifically, being like, she didn't answer my call, and I was like, oh, poor Rodney, he's missing Elizabeth.
Yeah.
There's so much like Rodney and Elizabeth, like when you just kind of like sit down and like look at it. It is really unfortunate that I feel like their relationship just doesn't really get like looked at the way that like, you know, we do. Now let me rephrase that. It makes it sound like we're not like, makes it sound too good. No, they just don't get like the hype and like the popularity that I think they really deserve, you know? I think they have a really sweet relationship, and I understand that a lot of people look at Rodney a certain way and look at his relationships with like women a certain way because of like SG1, But I think it's just like night and day when you look at like Rodney's interactions with like Sam and SG1, and then you look at his interactions with like with Teyla and Elizabeth, and it's just like it's so good and it's so sweet and it's just so. And I understand. I'm not like blaming or anything. Obviously, people like remember his relationship with like Sam more because of just how disturbing it is and how like consistently disturbing it is, you know. But it makes me sad that I think, you know, his actual like good relationships, even like with Ronan, for example, get kind of like swept away sometimes, and people just kind of look at like the obviously like the more popular ones. But I think there's a lot with Elizabeth and Rodney, and I think I don't know. In every episode, I feel like we find something new, and it's just great. And it just like adds on to the idea that like they are like such good friends, and they like respect each other so much.
Yeah, I think it's still a very subtle friendship, but it's definitely there, and it's so much built on mutual respect, which is really, really great to see, especially coming from Rodney and his previous record with women. But yeah, I do love that, and in general, I love how this episode really shows how much everyone cares about Elizabeth, and that she's not like a side character, but because everyone is worried about her, everyone tried to call her or text her or whatever they did, and I really like that she's like really part of the family.
Oh yeah.
But I love how like that's the theme of this episode. Like more so than like any other episode, I feel like the team just comes through, and I think you can really see like how much like everyone cares for each other in this episode, even though it is like sort of like way more subtle than, for example, like SG1, you know, as compared to it like a lot of these relationships you kind of have to like look in the background, you know, like stuff like we do, you know, like for Rodney and Elizabeth, or like for Ronan and Elizabeth, and just like little things like that. But it's just so much like at the forefront in this episode, and it's so nice. And it's so nice because I feel like they're vocalizing it finally, right? They're saying it out loud instead of like showing it like with their actions, which, you know, is interesting because, you know, you think like, oh, showing is better than telling. But that's not true in every case, especially when it's like, you know, you kind of have to like piece through all these seasons to find like, you know, them being like saying out loud, "Oh, I care for you." You know, like it's so difficult to find in Atlantis because they're all like repressed little idiots. And so it's just so nice to get an episode where it's just like constant like affirmation, like, no, these people love each other. These people are a family. These people like genuinely care for each other, and you know, they want to be together. And it just sort of reinforces the idea in my mind, like my personal headcanon, that Atlantis, wherever they are in the Pegasus Galaxy, they're all still like a team. They're all still like together. Like I don't think, you know, time would have split them apart. I think that, you know, maybe they do things differently. Maybe they retired on Atlantis, but they all live on the city and stuff like that. So
Heck yeah.
And I feel like it also shows that they know each other. Like they not only care for each other, but they really know each other, and they know what's like normal behavior for someone, and they know when to worry. And I think that's really, really nice. There's also one at the dinner scene. Elizabeth is like, oh, she's gonna leave early, and because like it's getting late or something, and John is like, since when do you sleep? And I just really love that she's depressed. Like, that sounds bad, but like I like that they. How do
she shows
explain
emotion.
this?
She shows a like real,
Yes.
genuine emotion, and I think that sometimes, you know, because she's stuck in like this like commander role, like she can't obviously like, you know, be like super like worried when the team goes away. You know, like she's worried, you know, and you can see it, but it's like supposed to be like more subtle because she's not supposed to like vocalize it. But again, it's like they're vocalizing everything this episode. It was so great. Like you can see how much not, you know, being Atlantis has affected her. You can see how like even 6 weeks hasn't like healed that hole inside of her. You like it to have the other characters even point it out and be like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you answering calls and stuff?" Again, it just reaffirms everything, and It brings everything together.
Yeah. And I don't know, I just like that they allow her to be depressed, I guess. And that that it is not easy to move on after that, and that they she doesn't really know how to take care of herself right now. She's a complete mess. Her place is a mess. And that she sleeps a lot is also kind of worrying in
Definitely
her case.
depression
And yeah,
symptom.
I'm glad that she's it's not a good quotations emotion, obviously, or in a good state, but I'm just glad that we got to see her outside of her commander role, because I feel like she is throughout the whole episode almost, except for the beginning and then the end, but in the middle part where they are on Earth, I feel like she behaves so differently. Even the way she walks, and she's a little bit she's not as reserved as she often is on Atlantis, because I think even when she's in her commander role, I think you can still see a lot of emotion in her face, but it is very refrained, and she's obviously not trying to show it. And I feel like in this episode, a lot of her masks that she usually wears are just wiped away, and I love that. I always love that. It's always when the people are when the characters are off duty or something. And we have that here, and obviously in her case it's not necessarily good or healthy, but it's still nice to see her, to see that part of her. And I wish we saw it more, obviously, but I'm just glad for what we have.
Yeah, I'm glad that she was allowed a moment of weakness, because so much in fiction, especially nowadays, the idea of a strong female character, in quotations, has to be one particular image. And so seeing her vulnerability really makes her a fully rounded character, and relatable and believable, and someone you can empathize with, and just makes you as a viewer feel like you know her better, you feel closer to her, which is always, I think, important when you're telling a story. The one thing I really enjoyed was the fact that when she went out for dinner with the boys, she wore red. And I want to believe that's a conscious choice for her.
It's her color.
Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of outfit, I have a theory. Or a headcanon.
Okay.
So, in the beginning of the show, she's wearing a silver and gold necklace, I think, and then at some point she stops. And I headcanon that Simon gave it to her, because in Home, he also gives her a necklace. That's obviously a dream, but I still imagine that he gave her maybe the other one, and she stopped wearing it when she realized, oh, maybe I don't want to be with him anymore, and then eventually breaks up with him. This one, the one she's wearing now, is a little bit I think it's definitely darker and maybe brown. I thought maybe it's wood or something. I thought maybe it looks a little bit like something that the Athosians made. So I headcanon that Teyla gave her that necklace, and she's wearing it now, and it reminds her of her.
Yeah, one thing that was missing in the episode is Elizabeth saying goodbye to Teyla and Ronon, but also missing them. What would that look like if we saw it on the show? Because obviously she did, but I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
What would it look like?
Yeah, definitely. There's one time, I hate that we didn't get a goodbye. I love that we got a goodbye between John and Teyla, and then we got the forehead touch, but we can talk about that later. But yeah, I'm sad that we didn't get that between, because again, Elizabeth was the leader, and it was a different relationship between her and Teyla and her and Ronon than the others had, I guess. But it was weird that she was just shipped off like the rest. But when they return and they kind of surprise Teyla and Ronon, and Teyla is so happy to see everyone, and she's happy to see John and everyone, and nobody says anything except except Elizabeth, who says, and something like, and you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I chose to interpret that as a Teyla moment, but obviously, like, just in general, it's nice that she, like, acknowledges that she's also happy to see them.
I love that. I believe that's headcanon as well now. I love it we can just, like, twist things into our little version.
Yes.
Well, speaking of, like, Teyla and Ronon, maybe we can start with them as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think they actually get a decent amount to do this episode, I will say. You know, obviously not maybe as much as you could have, like, hoped for, especially, you know, like, in regards to, like, their other relationships outside of John, right? They don't really get to say, like, goodbye to, like, Elizabeth or Rodney, really, or Carson. It's kind of just, like, a general, like, they say their goodbyes mainly to John. But I still really enjoyed, like, the part they played in this episode. It's really that scene where Layden is trying to get them to join the Janai, and he's like, you don't really have any other option really out here. You're like, we're the only, you know, organized human coalition left in the Pegasus galaxy. And you get that little scene of, like, Ronan kind of storming out and being like, like, I don't, you know, what else are we supposed to do? Teyla's like, well, my people are farmers, like, you know, like, it's been weeks already, you know, like, they're kind of already settled, like, what else, you know, we need to do something to, like, put our skills to use. And so I think, there is a lot that you can kind of, like, just, like, glean from, like, these little scenes, I think. What is he? Layden says something to Ronan where he's like, you won't be happy, like, being, like, a farmer forever or something. I think that was really interesting. And again, just, like, their excitement and, like, momentary joy at seeing the team, and then Jordan's like, what happened? And then immediately they're like, oh, wait, you're right. Like, the only reason why they, you know, they're back is because something went wrong. And they're just like immediate yes when John's like, well, we're here because you're part of the team, not because, you know, like, you're part of the, is it team or family or something? But anyways, he you know, he verbalizes that no, they're not just here because, you know, they need them as, like, their skills. They're here because they love them and, like, value them as, like, people in their lives. So again, it's not maybe as much, especially when you look at Teyla from, like, the Athosian perspective would have been really cool to see, like, especially her, like, coming to terms with, like, the fact that, like, the religion she grew up in, like, was maybe wrong to place all their faith in, like, one basket. So there is stuff missing there for sure, but I did enjoy, like, the little bit that we got, and I think it does add to both of their stories.
One thing in particular about Ronon and Teyla as part of the story that really got me was the fact that it was so unspoken that Ronon was sticking with Teyla. I think their relationship is always, like, we always see it in the background. It's such a constant, but it's always so unspoken, but in the sense that it's kind of lovely that way. Like, nobody questions that Ronon would be found with Teyla. Like, I didn't think that he would be anywhere else but with her. And, like, no matter what they're doing, they're sticking together. Even when Layden comes and is trying to recruit them, I don't think they would separate. Like, if one of them decides they want to join with the Janai, the other would follow. I think they want to hold on to that connection as long as they can, and that piece of Atlantis, because it's still connecting them to their buddies there as well for as long as they could. So, yeah, that part was really special to me.
I have to say, I was a little bit surprised when I saw them together, but I think I was more surprised by Layden that he was there suddenly, and because the Janai were also mentioned in the last episode, I think, in Phantoms, right? Like, oh, they were here and they messed around, and was like, the Janai are still around, so I guess they're just like, I forget that that they exist. Maybe I just have a really, really shitty memory. But I do love the fact that they stuck together and that they made like the Teyla and Ronon stuck together and that they made like their own personal alliance, kind of.
Yeah.
And that Ronon chose to stay with the Athosians. I'm Actually, I think it's okay to ask how long he would have stayed there if they if the Atlantis team hadn't returned. But I do like that he stayed with them at least for a while and that he was welcome there. And also about the Athosians, it's so sad, but we don't see them. We only hear about them. Like, we don't even see one background extra. They are only talked about, which is a bit sad. But Teyla did say that it was kind of difficult for them to, and that the return of the Ancient wasn't the return of the ancestors that they had hoped for. But it doesn't go in any depth. So it would have been cool if there had been more. I feel like Teyla's beliefs are never really explored or talked about. It's said in the beginning that the Athosians believe in the Ancients as gods or something, or they just believe in them as power. But I'm not sure if we know about her personal belief.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because I feel like whenever she talks about faith, it's always from the perspective of her people. My people believe this. My people do this as a sign of respect to the ancestors. My people, and it never is I believe this, or I do this because. So yeah, it would be interesting to get more of a personal look in how she personally feels about this whole situation.
Because maybe she doesn't even believe. Or it's more of it's something she grew up with, and it's latent.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that headcanon. I don't think she's as religious as the rest of her people. And I think especially being on this journey with the team, I'd like to think that if she was still a little bit, I think this kind of knocked out any of that remaining belief in her, especially after this episode. Are you kidding me? I mean, there's so much going on in this episode, so I get why they didn't want to show the Athosians, but it is just, a problem with the show overall, right? How they just don't really care to show the Athosians and don't really care to incorporate them into the show, and there's other problematic aspects that I think can be found with that. But yeah, it would have been nice just to get more of an insight again into Teyla's feelings, just her feelings, less of her family, and also again outside of Ronon as well, because it is so nice that they have such an unspoken bond, and I love it so much. They have such an underrated relationship, regardless of whether you want to look at it as romantic or platonic love. But it just makes me sad though sometimes, because they do it just because they shove the two of them in scenes sometimes, because the other ones are doing the important mission. They kind of get stuck at the B or C plot quite often. So it would have been nice for Teyla to have that her own separate moment where maybe she talks to, Ronon, or she talks to anyone else. Maybe she talks to Elizabeth or Rodney, and she mentions, that she was taught to believe in the Ancients, and then over time she's kind of, fallen out of that belief, and then now this just made her, completely separate herself from the religion and just see them for what they really are. That would have been a nice scene. But I have to say, I do really love her scenes with John this episode. I think they're so sweet. I love the forehead touch. I don't care. I'm not cringy, but I don't care. I think they're so cute, and I'm so happy about that back. I think there's some really great little callbacks to season 1 Atlantis, especially with Teyla. They do the forehead bump, which is really cute, and then in that scene of Ronon and Teyla in John's room as he's packing, you get that little scene where she mentions popcorn, which is really cute because Teyla loves popcorn. And she's saying, we'll miss you, and John's just oh, I don't really know how to say this, and then of course we'll help you pack, and then it's just really cute. I think her and John's relationship was on display here, and just how much they care about each other. And, if at least we got her scenes with John and Ronan. I'll take it.
Yeah, the forehead touch scene was so sweet. I really liked the fact that John was kind of the one to step forward first. Because it's so unlike him to be an instigator of human contact or emotion. So I really liked that he was the one to do it first. And they had a very cute little exchange there, wishing each other well. It was very sweet. But I also really liked in his bedroom scene when Teyla offers John to stay with them after John asked them to stay or come with them to Earth. That was really sweet too, because it kind of speaks to how I feel, not just John, but all the characters that came to Atlantis from Earth don't really belong on Earth, or felt like they didn't belong on Earth. And Teyla offering him that verbally to be like, you could stay in Pegasus with us, was so sweet. I really like that.
It does, however, remind me of the fact that we never got an episode with Teyla and Ronon on Earth.
Boo! We were robbed!
Oh no!
I know it makes no sense for her and Ronan to, like, leave, the Pegasus Galaxy in this episode, but damn it! Damn you! You're robbed of Teyla and Ronan experiencing them all for the first time.
I was wondering I'm glad that they didn't go with them. I think that would have been completely out of character.
Yeah.
If they had left Pegasus. But I wonder, what do you think if they had left? What would they be doing on Earth?
Ooh.
I would assume, it's tough. Because my original thought was they'd be sort of like early seasons Teal'c, where they'd kind of be like in the SGC,
Yeah.
as sort of members, but like not military. But I also could see them just like living, honestly, like off base, and like each of them having like their apartments, and like the SGC just like giving them money, monthly or whatever, and they're just like quote unquote like fake civilians, again like that Teal'c episode where he lives off the SGC.
I don't know why, but I somehow maybe that's just an AU I have in mind. But like, what if Teyla just starts like a pottery shop?
Yeah.
And she's just starts doing pottery. I feel like Ronan would definitely stay with the SGC at first.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if he would. I don't feel like he would be happy there.
I was also thinking in my head, maybe Teyla would open a meditation studio and do like guided meditation.
Yes.
Yoga, but also
I was gonna say yoga. Oh my god.
And like a mixed martial arts for like women. Yeah. And then Ronan would come and like sit in a class and fall asleep and get in trouble.
That would be so cute. Oh my god. And Elizabeth and Teyla could date.
Yeah, exactly. Someone write this AU.
I will forever hold a grudge, I think, that we never got to see them on Earth. And like, I guess you can say we kind of got to see Teyla because she was in like Dreamscape with John.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually Earth.
I mean, we got to see
Ronan,
but very quickly.
Yeah.
And it was a deleted scene where he really got to see like the TV and like Earth culture. So
Oh yeah.
The battle's very lactic. I love that scene. He's like, we gotta help these people. He's like, they're in trouble, and John's like, no, that's a TV program. I love that scene so much.
It's so sweet.
I know we kind of talked about Teyla and Ronan, and I do feel like a lot of their scenes are sort of like together, but I also just want to say how much I love that John and Ronan scene so bad. I love that Jason just picks Joe up. And I love they kept that in and they like let them like kind of play around. I do wonder like, how strict they were to sort of like keep to the script. I assume they were pretty like read your lines type of thing. I wish they would have let the actors like improvise a bit more, because I feel like this was totally like improvised. This was really just like Jason just picking Joe up, I think. And I mean, it's just one of like the cutest moments, and it's just so memorable. So I do wish they had let the actors kind of put their own spin on it sometimes.
So iconic.
So cute. Yeah, I feel like in this episode, with most of the characters, we just see them outside of like their active duty. We see them just in their free time, but like forced to like do other stuff. And I just love this because like there's so many emotions, and so I don't know, just the way they behave, the way they move, even it changes, even if just slightly. And that Ronan just picks him up. That is so cute, and he does it a lot. He's a very physical man, and he hugs a lot of people and stuff, and they're so sweet. And that they have that here, I just love it so much.
Ronan would be so like tactile, I think. Like he would be such a physical person, and we were robbed of that. I think that he'd be the type of guy to just like constantly be like throwing arms over his friends and just like leaning up against them, or just like a nice like friendship type of way. And I feel like we were robbed of that, and I would like to read a fic where he is just like the super touchy person, and Rodney has to like like figure out how to deal with it, and like figure out like how to accept him. They have to like come to like some sort of compromise. I would love that.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Yeah, speaking of Rodney, as a Rodney stan, I was very upset that Rodney was not included in that team scene. I did enjoy his scene with Radek and Carson, but I always feel like Rodney gets shafted when it comes to like the team stuff. I feel like he's very much always the odd one out. Like, he didn't even get to say bye to them in his own scene. Like, all he got with Teyla was a bye. Like, that's all he got. And I think that both his relationship with Teyla and his relationship with Ronon deserved a lot more attention or care in this episode.
I agree. There's that one crumb where he's talking to John on the phone, and he's like, oh, people I may never see again. So he's sort of talking about like Teyla and Ronon. But yeah, that was like the only thing I really caught between them, which was like really sad.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that Zelenka, Carson, and Rodney moment? Because why is that like one of the only ones I can remember of them three all together? I really feel like there's not that many, honestly. Especially one as like emotional as this one. I really did appreciate that scene of Carson sort of just like being like, you know what, like fine, you were the moment, and like leaving and just kind of getting all upset, and then Rodney having to give in and be like, no, okay, like just say it, like come back, like, I'm sorry I like brushed you off, kind of. I think that was really sweet of Rodney to kind of like put that aside and just be like, no, like just say it, like I want to hear, your emotional rant. And I think it would have been fun. I was kind of mad that Zelenka kind of felt like underused in that scene. So I think what I would have added was I would have added like Zelenka leaning over and like shoving Rodney and being like, like pull Carson back, and Rodney being like, okay, yeah, you're right, Carson, no, come back, say your piece. I think that would have just been a little cherry on top, but besides that, it's okay. I still enjoyed the Carson Rodney aspect.
I was a bit upset with that scene. I don't know. I was like, why are you being so mean? He's literally just, it's really hard for him right now. Why? I don't think it was too over the top or too like cheesy that they made him tear up. I think it was weirdly in character.
Yeah.
But I felt so bad for him in this case that Zelenka and Rodney, they were kind of teaming up against him, and it was like, come on, guys, you're leaving, and you don't know when you'll see each other again. Yeah, but yeah, there was a resolution, so I'm okay with it again. But in the beginning, I felt kind of defensive for Carson for a moment there.
Yeah, it's such a funny scene. Not funny, haha, but like, because Carson, when he's interrupted, he's like, first he says, of all the people. So was Carson gonna admit Rodney and Zelenka were his favorites, or he felt like closest to them, or he like respected them the most, or whatever? Like, I'm really interested to hear what he had to say. Like, of all the people, what? But of course, I think Rodney, obviously, he missed everyone, and he was actively very lonely when he went to Area 51, but I don't think he would be in touch with that feeling in that precise moment. I think it's just very Rodney to be like, whatever, and then afterwards kind of regret it and be like, oh, this sucks. I'm by myself. I miss Carson. I miss Zelenka. And I particularly miss when people were not fawning over me.
Can I just say, though, I actually really enjoyed Carson in this episode. Wow. Season 3 Carson? You know what? I think he's kind of popping off. I think we're finally seeing it here. I don't know, I think, again, maybe it's just because, like, the lack of war crimes, but I just feel like his sweetness is, like, really coming off, and it's actually like, oh, he does mean well. Aw. Like, I think, again, in the scene with Rodney was really cute, and then I actually really do appreciate his scenes with Elizabeth. I think they have a really sweet relationship where she's always, like, reassuring him, that he's, like, doing a good job, and then when he goes to her house and is like, nope, I'll pick you up at 7, like, you don't really get a choice, in, like, a really nice way, he puts it, which I think is really sweet, and his little joke about, like, his turtles, and he's, like, his genuine, like, distress over, like, oh my god, I may have killed these fucking turtles, was just so good. I don't know, again, it just really felt like it just felt genuine in this episode, and it felt genuine last episode, and it's been feeling more genuine as the episodes go by, but I think it is just the lack of, like, Wraith interaction.
Yeah, you're right. We've been kind of praising him the last 2 episodes, which is new for us, but I agree. I really liked his, interactions with Elizabeth as well, and that he was the one who kind of got her out of her shell again, and nice. And also, I like that he's kind of, not forgetful, but, like, he lost his phone, he left his phone at home, like, everyone is getting a call, and he's like, what the fuck is happening? Yeah. And then with the turtles, that he just forgot them, which, understandable in that situation, but still, it was really funny and really, really sweet.
The fact that Carson felt left out because he didn't bring his cell phone, but then it turns out that Landry didn't even call him was such a funny moment. So well done. But also the turtle thing was hilarious, but mostly because of John. John is a monster. Yeah. Like, as soon as Carson...
It's like turtle soup or something.
Yeah, like, as soon as Carson's expressing how sad he is about potentially killing his turtles, John starts talking about eating them. Like, what is your problem?
Can I just say, John was on fucking something in this episode. I think there were so many moments where John was like, girl, what the hell is your problem? Like, he has zero chill. Oh my god, that in the beginning, when they first realize that they save Ancients, and they go down and tell Elizabeth, and then Jack comes, he's like, oh yeah, you guys have been kicked out. John, like, sort of mutters under his breath, and he's like, we should have left him out there.
I mean, he was real for that, but...
Yeah, definitely.
He's so pissed at this entire episode, and I think he mentions it too, like, oh no, like, I'm pissed, I'm just, like, doing my job, like, when he's, checking all the list off for Elizabeth when he's in her quarters, but again, he's so fucking upset this episode, and I think it makes his, like, one-liners even funnier, when he's, going back, or when he's on the, new Stargate team, when he's, like, recounting what happened with, like, his new team, and he's just fucking pissed. You can just see it in his face. He's so upset that his crew or gang, whatever, fell into a freaking brook and sprained their ankle and had to carry him out of there. Like, not even Rodney has done that. Like, and then John, like, literally tasing him later, just being like, sorry. Like, tasing the guy on crutches is kind of crazy. I mean, I get his, like, he's right. He's like, you can't let Landry know. But Landry literally found out, like, the second they left, he was like, oh, it's John. So I think it's so funny. They were like, John was like, yeah, we can't let Landry know. And then it sort of felt like he kind of did it just for the love of the game.
Honestly,
He just did it out of spite. He was like, fuck your ankle.
Yeah, he did not like that guy.
Saying he was on something this episode. He was like so upset. It was like a quiet rage.
Also, when they're in the midway station and Landry calls them, and he just like ends the call like that, because that way he doesn't know what he was gonna say, and it's like, dude, you know. But yeah, he was done.
Yeah, not to derail and talk about McShep, but I'm going to.
Please.
Let's go.
I fucking love John and Rodney in this episode. They are, like, their peak dynamic to the core in this episode. It starts right at the beginning, too, when Shepard is testing the gate bridge, and he comes on the comm, and he's like, hey, I'm coming back, and I'm bringing pizza. And Rodney smiles at his, like, stupid joke. I was like, okay, I see you. And that phone call scene is just the best. I agree. It is very domestic. It speaks to their weird friendship. Like, even though they seem like people who would not be friends, and yet even when they are not forced to be in the same place, they still communicate with each other and, like, choose to call each other and talk and vent about their days, which is just so validating, personally, but also great. John's smug, oh, like, you're missing me. When he's talking to Rodney on the phone was just, they're so in love there in that scene. It's just so great. But also prior to that, when John mentions that he misses Rodney after his teammate has the unfortunate accident, and Landry being like, chemistry doesn't happen overnight, he was clocked. He was clocked right there. I just thought that's so funny.
Landry said, gay? With an eyebrow raise.
But even Elizabeth in this episode, like, when Shepard quotes Princess Bride, but weird things he's quoting Oscar Wilde, like, she clocked that bitch. Come on.
John just dancing around all the stereotypes. You gotta keep them on their toes.
Yeah, and even, like, Woolsey being on the phone to John and asking him to let Rodney know that, they basically protected the city because the replicators were coming anyway, and they would not have the technology or the means to fend them off, but the Ancients would. Like, the way that he just assumes they're still in contact was also really interesting to me.
Inseparable.
Truly.
You know what? Actually, speaking of the Ancients, let's just circle back. Let's just circle back right to the beginning. We were talking about the Ancients. I've held myself back for the entire episode, but I think it's time to discuss the Ancients. And what the fuck happened in this episode? Listen, it's weird. I have so many different, like, conflicting thoughts. Because on one hand, the Ancients are so fucking stupid in this episode that it's almost unbelievable. Like, to this day, I still watch this episode and I'm like, are they really Ancients though? Like, I still question it. I'm like, are they joking? And then on the flip side, I'm like, this is a very ancient-y to just come in, bulldoze their way through, kick out all the natives and be like, haha, we're taking our city back, and then being like, ha ha ha, they can't hurt us, we're too powerful, and then getting nuked out of their own city. I feel like very ancient-y. But I don't know, it's just something about this episode where it doesn't feel like they're ancients, or there's just something missing, I think, with them. And maybe it's because we don't really see them for, like, most of the episode, and they're just kind of, like, in the background. And, like, the team's reaction, I just feel like is so, it should have been much bigger, maybe, towards, like, the Ancients. And again, I wish there was some sort of resolution at the end where the team being like, okay, yeah, maybe the Ancients, like, aren't the best of people, we should, like, put, you know, worship, not worship, but our idolization of them in the past kind of thing. But I don't know, they just feel so weird. It's such a weird episode. It feels, especially like it's mid-season, which, I mean, to be fair, mid-season is sort of like a big thing, or used to be more of like a bigger thing back in like these, older shows where, you'd split the season into 2 parts. But you kind of feel like this would be like some sort of big finale or something, where it's like, oh no, the team is stranded on Earth, and then but it's not, because the next episode, I don't know, there's just a lot that I just feel very confused about, and how I feel about the Ancients in this episode.
Yeah, for me it felt kind of really very ancient-y. Like everything, like their arrogance and their just overestimation of themselves, like the fact that they thought, oh, they can't harm us. Like, first of all, 10,000 years have passed. Not for them, it's been only, like, I don't know, much less. But still, that they don't care about anything that's happened. They just want their city back, and they don't even care that nobody's there anymore. They don't care what happened in the last 10,000 years. They don't care what the humans did. They're just here to stay now. So that felt very in character. But I agree that it's weird how compliant the humans from Earth were in this whole thing. Because I think Ronon is the one who says, oh, we're just gonna take this lying down, and then they're like, yep, and leave.
Yeah.
And I don't really buy that. The ancients are just fucking stupid. Like,
yeah. It's just underwhelming. I think the word is just underwhelming. I think.
And again, it's so weird that they're not really present. Like, we have Helia, and I think 3 extras. Helia is the only one who talks in 2 scenes, one as a hologram transmission, and one as with Elizabeth, where she takes over the city, and then they're gone. We don't see them again until I don't know what happens in the next episode. I feel like this episode should have been a 3-parter, or like the mid-season. I feel like the whole what they should have done in this episode is that they meet the ancients, they rescue them, they take over, they want to send them back home, they fight, like not physically maybe, but they fight for their right to stay in Atlantis. Eventually they are expelled back home, and then they struggle with being on Earth. Oh, maybe that could be the next one. I don't know. But definitely the part of them leaving Atlantis and then being on Earth should have been a lot longer. And also, like, Rodney trying more to figure out what they did, how they could took control that easily, how they just made this control pad or panel appear out of the floor in the middle of the gate room that he never saw before. And I think they all would have tried. I would have liked to see them more try to get anything else out of this. Maybe prolong their stay there by saying, oh no, we need more time to evacuate, or whatever, but just drawing it out more until they leave and not just accepting their fate.
Yeah, and talking about hubris of the ancients in this episode, if they just talked, if they were willing to have a conversation with anybody on the expedition, but especially Rodney, they would have heard him be like, oh yeah, by the way, I tampered with their base code, so blah blah. But
that is true. They're, just stupid.
Yeah. It's just an episode that should have had, like, lasting implications, and it just doesn't, I think, is what kind of drives me insane, especially when they've been, like, building. For example, like, if you had never seen, like, SG-1, if you just, like, launched into Atlantis, and, you hear all this stuff about this mysterious race, and you see, like, the intro, where they're, like, fleeing because they're being attacked, and, like, they're building up to this, like, species, and then you get this episode, and it's like, that's it. And it just sort of makes you, like, even doubt, like, are they really ancients? Like, were they just pretending? Or, like, what the hell is happening here? And we don't get ancients again for the rest of the series, really. So it's just really, I think, disappointing. And I think there's so many different ways they could have played with it. My initial thought was, I think it'd been really cool if after the whole Michael debacle of the beginning of season 3, if the entire team, maybe like Elizabeth, or maybe like specific members, started to sort of like doubt whether they were like the right people for the job of like protecting the Pegasus Galaxy. Maybe they're sort of like starting to believe that like all the choices that they make, they always pick the wrong ones. Like maybe the Pegasus Galaxy would be better off, and then the Ancients come in and they're like, you know what, yeah, you're right, maybe we should leave. Like, the Ancients are back, they got this, they were like these gods before, and then of course the Ancients get destroyed, and then maybe it sort of like reinstills that like original belief of like, you know what, no, like let's take that like passion for exploration and like just dedication to like saving this galaxy and like protecting the people, and like let's like let that like reinvigorate our sort of like our motto or like our message of us as like a team, That was sort of my initial thought. That would have been kind of fun, but I don't know, there's just so many different ways they could have done, gone about it, and so many different ways that could have like changed the show, and it just doesn't. And that's so frustrating.
To be honest, I don't think that the humans would get to a point where they're like, oh, maybe we're not the people for the job, because I think they're also pretty stupid.
That's fair. You're right. I'm too hopeful. These people are war criminals.
Or even if they got to the point where like, maybe not, or like if someone was like voicing doubt, like a minute later they were like, no, we got this, and then they don't.
You're right. We're too arrogant. Or even the H's themselves being like, you know what, you guys don't belong here. Like, you guys have messed this up. Like, what? Like, you reawakened the Wraith. Michael's now out there with all these hybrids coming up. Or, you've made contact with the replicators. The Jedi have now, like, turned against you. And then just, like, being like, you guys are the problem with this galaxy. Or something like that. Like, just really giving them, like, that villain, like, sort of twist. When you expect these people to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to ask them all these questions, and then no, it's like the betrayal of, like, the race that you've been kind of hearing about for almost 3 seasons, come in and just spit on your heroes and, kick them out of their own city. Again, just, I think also just adding, like, a villain aspect, because, like, yes, I think now that, like, we're talking about it, it's like, okay, yeah, like, they definitely, like, we're stupid, and, their hubris kind of took over, but it doesn't feel like the episode is, like, it feels like the episode is still trying to tell us, like, ooh, look, like, ooh, the Ancients, like, they're so cool, like, I don't know, I just feel like the message is just so off, like, there's just so many, it doesn't feel like the episode is telling us to hate the Ancients.
What's crazy is, like, they basically truth bombed that the Ancients were responsible for the creation of the Wraith. And nobody bats an eye in the episode. They're like, yeah, that tracks. We knew that. And then move on. But it's like, they're ultimately responsible because they were the ones who made the problem in the first place. Like, poor Atlantis people were just trying to fix it. And clean up their mess.
True.
Okay, it drives me up the fucking wall that we didn't get a single, like, mention of, like, John's, like, chosen one ancient gene in this episode. Like, okay, again, one throwaway line where Helia looks at John and goes, or gives him, like, a weird look. Even, I'll settle for a look. I'll settle for a non-verbal look. I would have taken literally anything, any mention of being like, why are you so powerful? Or just, like, questioning it. It would have been so nice.
For sure.
Landry is so funny, I have to say. He's such an interesting pick for, like, the Hammond successor. Hammond is such, like, a sweet little grandpa who has, like, loved the team so much. He was like, oh, SG1, ha ha ha, my grandkids. And then you get Landry, and Landry's like, put a nuke in your city. Where's the nuke? Like, we're gonna put a nuke. Landry is so crazy. He's so sassy.
He is.
And it always just cracks me up whenever I have to see him interact with the Atlantis team, because I just imagine him in Atlantis, and I think he would have a heart attack after like a week. Like his blood pressure would be through the roof.
Oh yeah.
I also just really like that little scene of the team in John's like office or whatever, and they're like all like planning to go back to the city, and they're like, hypothetically. So cute.
That scene was so funny to me, because they were all like doing their own thing before that. Like for 6 weeks, they've all just been separated, doing their own stuff, trying to find a footing on Earth, more or less successfully. And the minute they hear that Atlantis is in danger, they're like, okay, fuck this, get the band back together. We're gonna go and rescue our city. No questions asked. They immediately start to scheme. They don't fucking care about the consequences. They're gonna steal a jumper right away. It's so funny. It's so fun. And then they just do it. Like it's not even a question of whether or not. It's clear to them that they're gonna do it, and they just have to figure out how.
Yeah, and the fact that they even could, like, I can't believe Rodney hacked the SGC, and the Atlantis crew pulled the heist of a century on the SGC. Like, they stole that puddle jumper and hijacked their gate. Like, they should be embarrassed.
Right under their noses, too.
Rodney got his revenge.
And it took, like, yeah.
He wanted so
like
badly to work on that jumper, and they told him no. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna steal it.
If I don't get to work on it, nobody does.
Exactly.
Also, I really enjoyed a lot of things about this episode. But there's one shot that I really love, and of course it's of Elizabeth, and it's when she steps through the gate, and she's the last one to go, and she kind of lingers and takes one last look around, and there's the Atlantis theme playing. And we had a similar scene like that when she leaves Atlantis, I think, in the season 2 finale. She is recalled by Landry and has to leave. And I think she's walking through the gate room, and there's also the theme playing, and like, I love this. And I love how it like shows the connection between her and Atlantis and her home. I really, really love that. And I think it's very fitting that she's the last one to leave.
Alright, well, that was lovely. And I guess we can just go right back to Ash for the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
This episode passes.
Woo!
Oh.
Yeah. We have a scene between Elizabeth and Teyla.
So, which means we also stay with you, Ash, right? Because you have the behind the scenes. Okay, yeah. Then I just say that.
Yeah. So, this episode was written by Martin Gero, although he said in the audio commentary that it was more of a team effort. And the episode was directed by Brett Turner, who is a director who comes in every now and then and directs a few episodes a season. Now, for trivia, the Tria, which is the ancient ship, is the 3rd Aurora-class battleship encountered by the Atlantis expedition since their arrival in the galaxy, after the Aurora and the Orion.
I always forget it's called the Trio. But nice.
The establishing shot of Elizabeth's apartment building is a reuse from the SG-1 episode Affinity, where it was used for Teal'c's apartment. So, I do believe that Elizabeth and Teal'c were neighbors.
That is so cute. Oh my god.
They should be best friends.
They should. I believe that he would be an amazing neighbor, and he would like bring cookies over and see how she's doing. Anyways, this episode marks the first appearance of a Zat-Nickel in Stargate Atlantis.
That is so funny.
That is funny. I was really surprised. Everything was messed up for me in this episode. John wearing green fatigues. There's a Zat. What the fuck is happening? This is all wrong.
I know, like the sound. even just the sound, I was like, that's not the right show.
Exactly. Just weird. We didn't talk about Woolsey a lot, but this is the third time that Woolsey has been off-world, and it's the second time. Well, I guess the next episode is probably more that, but either way, I'm gonna read it now. This is the second time that he's nearly killed while off-world. The first time is in the Scourge. Not a great track record.
Poor Woolsey.
This marks the final episode, the final appearance of Layden Redeem on the series. Layden, however, returns in the novel Stargate Atlantis Homecoming.
Interesting. I was gonna say, I was like,
Whoa.
I completely forgot Layden was even in this episode, first of all.
Same, yeah.
And second of all, really interesting that he doesn't appear. I mean, I don't remember, how often the Janai show up after this, but that is sad.
Yeah. Kind of weird send-off.
Yeah.
For his character. I don't know if you caught that, but the technician working on the puddle jumper before, when they steal it, was Siler.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
They knocked him out again.
Yeah. Continuing his legacy of just always getting the brunt of it.
Poor guy.
So we have a few recurring actors. Megan Leach, who plays Helia, previously played Kira in the SG1 episode Past and Present. And she's best known for her role as Samantha Mulder, the younger sister of Special Agent Fox Mulder in The X-Files.
Uh-huh. Oh, I did not know. How fun.
What?
Andrew Moxham, who played Christopher Wallace, the dude who sprained his ankle, previously played Hanger Sentry 2 in The Cure. There are a few goofs. As in several other episodes, the space gates portrayed possess only 8 chevrons compared to the 9 that all stargates are considered to have. Most fans put this down as an oversight on behalf of the SFX team and consider them to have 9 chevrons as far as Stargate canon is concerned. And this time even the Milky Way Stargate, because usually the space gates are only Atlantis ones, has only 8 chevrons.
Bye. That's big.
Oops. Oopsie daisy.
Okay, this one is a bit long, but bear with me. Dr. Bill Lee claims that he is a level 75 mage, specializing in engineering and dueling in World of Warcraft. However, at the time the episode aired, the maximum level possible was 70. He also says that he wants to increase his enchanting skills, but it's not possible to have more than 2 professions, and he already said that he was an engineer and a jeweler. He mentioned that he has a beta of the expansion, though does not specify which. It can be assumed that it is Wrath of the Lich King, thus explaining his ability to be level 75. He also mentions that raising his enchanting skill is not going well, probably due to his inability to have more than 2 professions. Furthermore, when asked her race, Elizabeth replies with mage. Mage is a class, not a race,
Yeah.
and Lee should have known this.
Absolutely.
The beta for Wrath of the Lich King would not have even been started when the episode aired in September 2006, because the second expansion, The Burning Crusade, wasn't released until January 2007, with the max level of 70. Therefore, his claim that he was a level 75 is way off, and you cannot assume he was in the Burning Crusade beta either because of the max level of 70. However, Martin Guerrero, who wrote this episode, he officially apologized in the audio commentary, saying that he talked with like a big World of Warcraft geek and was like, okay, what's the highest level you can get? And he was like, oh, level 50. But then asked, like he backtracked and was like, oh wait, when is this episode airing? And he was like, oh, like in 6 months. And he then estimated that by then this expansion pack or whatever should be out, and like that things would have changed, and that's why he said 75, but he was wrong, and that's why they make this mistake. I have absolutely no idea what I just read, but maybe there's some World of Warcraft.
Just smile and nod, guys. I
Yeah.
understood that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, my sister's a big WoW nerd, so I also, when Elizabeth said mage, I cringed because I was like, no, that's not a race. That's not a race. Your race is not a mage. No. You can be an elf, you can be an orc, like, this is not... Okay. Fine, whatever. But I think for canon explanation, we can just say that Bill was just so happy to have someone interested in talking about World of Warcraft, especially someone as beautiful and smart as Elizabeth. And so he was just like, whatever, she probably didn't understand what I was asking, but that's okay.
Yeah. Seconding that headcanon. Also, not for the first time, by the way, one of the German Atlantis crew members can be seen sporting a German flag patch upside down.
Again?
Again.
This is like the second or third time this has happened.
There's also a bunch of stuff concerning the CG, but I'm willing to forgive it because it looks so fucking amazing. Also, that establishing shot of the Midway Station is the longest CG shot in Atlantis. It's 20 seconds, and all others are usually like about 8 or 12 or something. And finishing with a really funny one, I think, is that John, while talking to Elizabeth, offers to quote, "Life isn't fair, it's just fairer than death." And he identifies the source of the quote as being from the Princess Bride movie. However, the quote does not appear in the movie, but comes from a novel. Which I think makes him an even bigger nerd.
Oh my god.
One last thing. In other languages, in French, this episode is called Forced Exile, Part 1.
Ooh.
Which I think is very fitting.
Yeah, I'd say.
Very on the nose. Alrighty, and now we can head over to Tor for the Fic Rec Corner.
Oh gosh, okay. So, buckle up, guys, because there's quite a bit. I think the return kind of sparked a trend in fics of exploring this idea of the team members' feelings about coming back to Earth. And, like, what would their lives look like if they came back to Earth, because they had to leave Atlantis for whatever reason. So there's so many, countless fics that are related to this episode in terms of the team going back to Earth. So I chose, since we have, luckily, a two-parter, some will be for next week, some will be for this week. I would be remiss if I did not mention Bang by Rage Proof Rock. Basically, the Atlantis expedition sent back to Earth, and John is struggling to adjust to Earth life for reasons you may not expect. So Rodney tries to make his life a little bit more palatable by Atlantisifying his new home. So basically he makes it so his doors will open like a motion sensor, and he can like turn on lights without having to click on a light switch and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really comedic take on them having to come back to Earth with a happy ending, of course.
Aww, I love that.
Huge.
It is very sweet. Another fic I wanted to mention this week was Kill Caution, Stay Over by Portland With You. It is a Teyla fic. They are stuck on Earth for an indefinite amount of time, so Teyla actually comes back to Earth with Elizabeth and the team in this fic, and they're both kind of struggling to adjust. Elizabeth, obviously, because she wants to stay on Atlantis, Teyla because she's away from her people and all that she's known. But when Elizabeth is invited out for a party, she takes Teyla along, and it's a very sweet fic. So, yeah, read it.
I read that one.
Oh, you read it!
Yeah.
Ash beat me to it.
Yeah. It's good.
And I have another one here for this week. It is called Suffer Me Not to Be Separated by Auburn. And again, Atlantis is brought back, the expedition is brought back to Earth. And it's a sort of alternate take on what could have happened to the crew members if they were called back to Earth in the early seasons. So I really like this fic because it kind of explores really in depth what both Rodney in particular and John in particular are doing in their Earthside positions. So John, again, has a new team that he has to navigate going off-world with, and then Rodney dealing with being in Area 51, working with different scientists, then Zelenka, really missing Zelenka, which I liked about this fic, and their struggles with that and how they keep in contact despite working in different states and in different places, doing different things. So that one's more of an angsty one, but it has a happy ending as well. And I hope you guys enjoy. So be sure to come back for our next episode because I will have some Ronon Rodney fic for the next time.
Something to look forward to. And now, let's rate it really quick. I'll go first. I think it makes me really sad not to give it a 10 out of 10 because I really want to, just purely based off like the team dynamics and just how much this episode like means to me as someone who like values these like intimate like character interactions. But unfortunately, I'm sorry, the ancient thing does piss me off too much. No, maybe it doesn't bug other people, and that is so fair. I don't know why it bugs me so damn much, but it just really does. I like continuity, and there's no continuity here. So I have to settle and give it a 9 out of 10. Still very generous, and I do really love this episode, but it's not perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah. That's a really high rating, I feel like, for you.
Yeah.
It is. The team, I just feel like that stuff is so good. All like the Elizabeth depression is just so good.
Yeah.
I can't not give it its 10 or 9s.
Yeah. I think I can. I'm really gonna give it. It's been, like, we had some really good episodes this season, but I think I love this one the most because I was so emotionally invested. You guys didn't see me, like the listeners, but like I was just dying internally here the whole time, and just screaming because I love this episode. The team was great. I loved it all. I love Depression Elizabeth. I love how much they care about each other, how much they look out for each other. I love. I talked a lot about the things I loved. I think it's a fun interaction between Atlantis and SG-1. So I just love it. I just think it's good. Yeah. So 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Fair. So fair.
I'm gonna say, oh boy, I'm gonna say 9.8.
Ooh.
Nice.
I was obsessed with this episode, and rewatching it, I was like, past Victoria, you were right. Because, holy cow, it is so good! The character interactions are great. I love all the relationships that they put on display in this episode, and they do almost all of them. I love the stakes in this episode. just seeing the internal worlds of these characters is always the most interesting to me, and where the actors really shine. And so I'm obsessed. It's great. I had to dock decimal points from my grade for the sole reason that I didn't get enough Rodney, Teyla, and Ronon to suit me. I know time constraints were probably a factor. But of course, being a Rodney lover, that was a little bit disappointing for me. But overall, this episode just like reminded me why I love this show so much, and so I have to give it a 9.8.
Respect.
Nice.
And on that lovely note, be sure to check out all of our links in the description box down below. I keep saying that. There's a description box, I promise. You can find all of our Jumping Puddles podcast accounts where you can see when we post episodes. You can also participate in the polls. And you can also check out our Fic Recs that will be linked down below. We also have a master list of all the fics we've recommended on every podcast episode. And you can also follow us on our own private social medias, and you can see what fandoms we are currently in and what are we currently up to. And with that, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.